Today, we are going to discuss a book by Slavoj Zizek titled, Less Than Nothing. In the introduction of this book, he talks about 3 types of stupidity. Through these 3 types, we can gain insight into Lacan's notion of the big other, also known as the symbolic order. So, what do we mean by the big other? Let's first discuss what these 3 types of stupidity are. The first type of stupidity is called ignorance of rules. Zizek refers to this as a lack of understanding of societal norms. Interestingly, some individuals who fall into this category can be very intelligent. For example, take Alan Turing. Have you seen the movie The Imitation Game? Turing was exceptionally intelligent but didn't always understand social conventions. Similarly, the character Sherlock Holmes often struggles with human emotions and social etiquette. In Czech culture, there's an animated film called The Good Soldier Svědek, featuring a character named Josef Svědek who is excessively kind and utterly ignorant of the rules of war. For instance, while his comrades are shooting at enemy soldiers from a trench, Svědek climbs out and shouts to his friends, "Don't shoot. There are people in the opposite trench." He fails to comprehend the life-and-death nature of war. Another example of ignorance of rules can be found in The Emperor's New Clothes. The young boy in the story is the only one brave enough to call out the emperor's foolishness. Zizek tells a joke that illustrates this. Imagine a revolutionary leader giving a long, tedious speech while everyone applauds. Suddenly, someone stands up and says, "Comrade Stalin, your speech is terrible. It's all wrong." Then, a second person jumps up to defend Stalin, saying, "How dare you insult our great leader? If you have criticism, bring it to him privately. How could you embarrass him in front of everyone?" Which of these 2 people do you think would face consequences first? Of course, it would be the second person, as they directly revealed Stalin's brutality. The first person merely expressed their disagreement. Both are examples of ignorance of the rules. The first person fails to grasp the surface-level rules, while the second one misses the deeper implications. So, the first type of stupidity is ignorance of rules. The second type of stupidity is adherence to rules. This type refers to individuals who are overly rigid and only understand the rules. They are often mundane and conventional. For instance, consider Dr. Watson, Sherlock Holmes's companion, and Hastings, Poirot's partner. Poirot once explained to Hastings, "Do you know why I need someone as ordinary as you beside me to help solve cases? Because criminals try to hide their evidence from people like you. By having someone with a conventional perspective nearby, Poirot can identify where criminals might slip up." This second type of stupidity is characterized by being too rule-bound and lacking creativity. The third type of stupidity, as Zizek suggests, is not simply a combination of the first 2 types. He poses the question, is stupidity merely a common trait? Is it either a complete ignorance of rules or an absolute adherence to them? The third type, according to Zizek, is disregard for rules. This type understands that rules are flawed and finds pleasure in exploiting their loopholes. Such individuals are not simply ignorant. They know that the rules have issues and find amusement in bending them. This third type can be described as intellectually lazy, a term that implies not only cognitive delays but also moral shortcomings, as these individuals might engage in wrongdoing. For example, Zizek tells a story from World War I about the relationship between Berlin and Vienna, 2 Allied nations. German soldiers send a telegram to their Austrian allies stating, "The situation is serious, but not catastrophic." In German, this implies that things are bad but not yet at a crisis level. However, the Austrians reply, "Here, the situation is already catastrophic, but not very serious." The Austrians play with language and remain overly optimistic, treating a serious matter as a joke. This disregard for rules is philosophically akin to the late Wittgenstein's theories. In his later work, Wittgenstein views language as a game and obsessively questions whether language can maintain consistency. He ultimately concludes that language is indeed a game, where all rules are temporary and often contradictory. In Lacan's view, this specific type of stupidity reveals the inherent inconsistencies within the symbolic system. We need a symbolic order to understand the world and think critically about issues. Lacan argues that to reach a new signifier and gain intellectual freedom, we do not need to transcend the existing symbolic system. Rather, we should recognize that stupidity itself represents a potential for new signifiers. Lacan suggests, "I may have had a revelation." In other words, Stupidity is always relative. Everyone is somewhat stupid because we all have the potential to become enlightened. Thus, stupidity and the consistency of the symbolic system do not exist in absolutes. We cannot be completely stupid. The symbolic order cannot be entirely meaningless or absurd. The path to wisdom does not lie in searching for something beyond the existing symbolic system. Rather, it involves acknowledging the internal inconsistencies of that system. Philosophical wisdom is not transcendent. Many viewers of my lecture might still not believe this, thinking that philosophical wisdom is about becoming superior or mastering some secret knowledge. In reality, philosophy teaches us to embrace our common humanity. Only by acknowledging our shared ignorance can we begin to perceive the inconsistencies within the symbolic order. In conclusion, the three types of stupidity illustrate that the symbolic system is inherently inconsistent and fractured. The first two types represent ignorance of rules and excessive adherence to them, while the third type is a philosophical reflection on these issues.